Hey everybody, welcome in. This is the next deck video. It's going to be a Temptation build. It's actually going to be the same deck but with several cards variation. So there's two versions of this deck that I've been using through rotation depending on what I'm seeing in the game. I've looked into all the red cards that are new so far and I love all the growth support. I love Amaterasu and all her art. She's very powerful. Great Divine Intervention is very, very powerful. I love that deck. I love playing that deck. Then I looked into the purple cards and the growth support, and I like these purple support cards. I would have to say even more. So you've probably seen some of these other decks around. They're based on, but people have been using like Fighting Against Inner Demons, Tenkoha. I've even seen some Shadowblade versions of the deck, which you could use this exact deck I'm going to show you with Shadowblade and all those hero arts. I've even probably dabbled, you could dabble into Quicksilver with this deck, and even Devil Trigger. But it's basically based around purple growth. The purple growth cards are really strong, and you got some really strong supports unit with it. So we're going to take a look. This is going to be the first build. I'll go over the second build real quickly because there's only a few card difference, and then we'll go over some stuff. And I chose Temptation because it's kind of a situational art, but it helps slow down enemy beaters such as Tyrant, Super Tyrant, and everything to help you out. But here's the build. Again, it's based around growth and the new growth units. This one's a little bit higher cost than the other version I'm going to show you, but it works out pretty similarly. But we all know what Kenny Chill does. Plus 3 HP to a friendly unit, and if it has growth, then it gains plus 3 growth points. Stone and Sand is a new card. If friendly units have leveled up 5 or more times, you negate an action with an MP cost of 4 or less. Cheaper negate, but at a price is that you've had to level up 5 times already, but it can negate a lot more. One-Eyed Dragon's Value gives Crush, which is a new ability. And come on. And that deals damage when attacking without taking damage from counters. So it's really strong, especially with your higher level cards. You can hit a higher level card for free, pretty much. And it gives that to a friendly unit with growth, and they also perform an instant attack, so it leads to great counters. Lusachia is a growth 3, and at level 2 it's minus 4 attack to a random enemy unit, and that comes in play a little bit later in this deck. Dalsim, growth 3, it's just for a little bit of burn damage, deals 1 damage to a random enemy unit on level 2 and 3 on level 3. Now is a new card. When played, if there's a friendly growth unit or a friendly purple unit with growth and an MP cost of 5 or more on the field, you gain nullify damage for 13 seconds. You drop this on the right time, you could basically absorb 2 hits with this unit from an enemy beater. Again, like Super Tyrant's running around crazy right now. He could absorb 2 and chip at him a little bit to help you out. Katakura Kodro, another new unit, and it's also with the growth of MP5 or more, of MP cost of 5 or more, and it gives that a random growth unit with that cost a shield, which is good to keep a growth units alive and chip. This card I found out through Iowa and his Twitter. He put this out there, and I looked at the card and I was like, how did I overlook this card? It fits perfectly with this deck, and it's a great counter to things that are going on in the meta right now. Amago. If friendly units have leveled up 5 or more times, return a random enemy unit with 2 or less attack to their deck. This will return Tyrant, it will return Super Tyrant, it will return Heavenly Kick Chun-Li, it will return those cards that are basically plaguing the meta right now. Not plaguing, they're basically running the meta right now. It could return them right back to the deck and they have to start over. Then I run the Growth Dante at growth 3, and at level 2 he gains combo, and at level 3 he gains 3/4. He works in synergy with Now and Katakura and everything. One of the main units in this deck is Kuroda Kanabe. He has slow, but he's a growth 3. At level 2 he gains +1/+1 and spillover, and at level 3 he gains +1/+1 and he loses slow, so he becomes a 5/9 with spillover at level 3, and that's easy to obtain within probably 30 seconds of the game. You can have him going if you get the right cards. An Ascend unit I use in this deck is Maeda Keiji. When an enemy unit appears in front, deal damage to the enemy hero equivalent to the own attack. This is more so if you're playing unit decks like the Amaterasu deck or even Nero decks that rely on dropping units a lot more than, say, the black decks who basically run with the Super Tyrant, or even now Orochi. And he's a Ascend unit, so when Ascended he gains +2/+3, so he becomes a 4/10, big body on the board, and he could do some burn damage. Innocent Desire Lilith is the next one. We all know her. She got buffed last expansion, and she has Flight, Growth 3. Level 2 deals 3 damage and you gain life equal back. Level 3 deals 5 damage, gain life equal back. And level 4 deals 7 damage and get life equal back. You're not going to see her hit level 4 a lot unless you're using Uncanny Chill, but it does happen, and it does help you kind of work your way back into a game and also chip out beaters. The last one is Oshilord Date Masamune, and he's a new card. He's very, very good. He has Shield when dropped, and Growth level 2, so it's very nice. At level 2 he gains 1 attack damage, so it won't show as 2 attack here, but when he hits, he'll hit for 2. At level 3 he gains 1 attack, so he'll become a 2/10 plus the extra attack damage, so he would hit for 3. And at level 4, this is where it gets crazy. He gains combo and spillover. You put him in the middle lane, he's hitting that middle lane for 6, and the spillover damage is just helping you clear boards. Combine that with One-Eyed Dragon's value, and he can clear boards quickly. So that's this version of the deck. There is a little bit of adjustments to the meta, and that would be this version, where I swapped out the Dantes for Palomus for another Ascend unit, just to get a little bit more chip damage with the agility, and the halting in front really helps against things like Orochi or even Tyrant. And instead of Maeda, I put in Goto. Goto, it's Ascend, he's a +1/+2, and he returns a random any unit of MP cost of 4 or less to their deck. This helps against green when they're dropping things like the new Nero or MP batteries or even Sasquatch, things like that. With black, it helps get rid of Gate and all those cards that they're going to drop in there. Again, I use this if I'm seeing more people use the 4 cost, or if I'm getting stuck playing against a lot of the black decks with because I want to use the extra halt. And like I said, you could use this one if you want to go against it works against black decks. It's very effective against red decks because of Maeda, but either way, either deck is very, very fun, very, very good, in my opinion. Again, they're going about 75% win percentage, and I think that's more because I'm not piloting it correctly in some games or I'm making poor decisions. But yeah, let's look over at some sideboards right now, and we'll take a look. Alrighty, let's take a look at some cards you can substitute in and out depending on budget, or also if you want to run more actions, things like that. These are all good cards that fit in. Bone Divination could go in this deck too if you want to use a little bit extra actions. And it gives a friendly unit at maximum growth, death +2 MP. I myself don't think that's very good because of the way you have to get there. Some of your growth units you're not going to get there, but it would work on something like Dhalsim or Lusacia, something like that. I put Crystal Hunter in here. You could use any halt card in this deck. It works well just to slow down the enemy beaters. Hookshot always is good. You can go over the top with it. It helps you get those heavy hitters. If you're using a Dante version, helps you get Dante over the top, helps you get Kuroda over the top, things like that. Splendid Buffet, yes and no, because you're not pulling cards into your EX pocket, so you're only going to do the 2 damage and get some life back. But if you wanted to use something, and if your opponent's using a lot of the EX pocket, it does help. Ceasefire is always good. It locks the enemy board or all slots on the board for 10 seconds. So it gives you a chance to drop and get some damage if you put it in at the right time. Against decks like Amaterasu or Growth decks or Burn decks, they're not going to be able to drop units to help you to do it. Maverick's Memory is a good card for cancels and negates. You can get rid of a unit so you can drop another growth unit on if you need to grow, or if you're at that point you could just cancel anything with it, or 5 cost or less with it. Cliff Off Roots, again, if you want to get more health gain, and you could use them instead of Dhalsim or Lusacia. You can use those in there. Basically, any of the 3 MP growths would work. Catchawacha if you want to get over the top, and then if you want to halt enemies. Morph Moth if you want a little bit more damage with flight, you can use him as well. For an Ascend unit, you could always use Yuri because she does -1 attack to the enemy unit in front, and Ascended, she becomes a 3/7. So she helps. She could always chip down that damage to get it for Imago to get it out. Giant Moth you can use. I mean, it becomes a 2/7 with Flight, which is not bad for a 3 cost, but that's only on Ascend. You could use them. I personally don't, but you can. Frost Walrus is a good growth unit in this deck if you want to do more halting and some spillover damage. Sugu Kenshin is good. When on the field, he gives friendly units +1 attack damage, and then if he hits the enemy hero, he halts a random unit for 5 seconds. That +1 attack damage is huge, especially with a unit like Masamune, because then he's hitting for 8 when he hits with spillover. You can use any bounce cards. Demonic Intimidation, you could use that to bounce back. Unforeseen Interference can go in instead of Sonin Sand, but again, Sonin Sand is a 4 MP or less card where Unforeseen Interference is 3. Again, another halt card you can use is Dark Hold. It inflicts halt for 13 seconds. For a flight card and agility card, you can use Devil Trigger if you have it. Oros, I don't know. I put Oro in as a sideboard because he could be used to tank a little bit of the lanes against things like Tyrant and stuff, but that's up to you. I personally don't. Skullduggery is kind of cool, especially if you're going to play a deck that chains a lot. Like I've noticed things like the new Tyrant decks are chaining a lot of actions in there. If you can chain it out, you could use Skullduggery to bounce that Tyrant back. And I put Meta and Goto on the list because they're alternate versions of the decks. For a 6 MP Ascend, you can use Victor. He gains 5 HP and you get 2 MP when he ascends, so he becomes a 4/11. It's a good body for a lane, and you gain 2 extra MP to drop more. Another Ascend unit you could use is Bulwark, because then you explore for twin familiars, which if you have the open slots on the lane, it really helps. You could always, and in purple, you can always use Brainwash in the deck. Take the strong enemy unit, use it in your advantage. So those are cards I think would sub in for some of the cards good in this deck. Again, probably not as strong with cards like Growth Moth being in there, but you could always use Morph Moth or Kechawacha, Frost Walrus, things like that could work well in this deck as well. But that's that. Let's take a look over at some gameplay. Okay, this first match is a Giant Killer with Nero, 2 power. You're going to see my original build on this deck when I had Kenshin in there. I thought this was a really good game to show the example of it. But here we go. We're just waiting. Again, with growth, you're going to have to wait a little bit to get going. But we drop right off the bat. We're at a 4/8 in the lane. And we're just rolling. He seals my middle, which is fine. That's okay. And as you can see, I had Hookshot in this version of the deck to get over the top. But this is also going to show you how decks evolve over time. So this was earlier in the meta when things were, people were still experimenting with things like growth or things like that before the meta really shaped up. So as you can see, I'm just kind of cycling through with my Palomus now. I dropped Meta. I didn't have anything I really wanted to drop him with, but then we used Temptation, and that's going to help me kind of take him out. I don't know why I used Flight here. I was just thinking I'll delete him and then get over the top, but it ended up almost costing me if I didn't have that negate in there. But then I removed that Nero. He can give everybody shield, but the best part about it is I could just go over the top with everybody. Oh, he's going to heal, so. But I could still go over the top and still do some damage. And that's going to be that. Again, I'm trying to show early builds and how builds can change over time. That was my first build of the deck. Now we're getting into the main deck where I use Meta. This is against Asura Senku. This is the new deck kind of running around the meta, running on Super Tyrant. So let's get going. So yeah, Asura Senku's kind of running crazy around the meta right now. He drops a Tyrant. Okay, I got a lot of time to wait here. I could build things up. I decided I'm just going to get to the Tyrant. Let's just get to him right off the bat. Let's have some fun. And he's going to try to start cycling now. And I'm able to take that one out. But he drops another one instantly. but I'm able to chip the lane. I use Meta there to kind of get some big damage on the board. And of course he comes right up top. But now I'm just setting myself up for a little bit later. For as soon as this, I'm setting it so as soon as Senku ends, I'm ready to drop and get some major damage. So I dropped Dhalsim, and there you go. See, I bounced him. I didn't kill him, but I bounced him. That's what's really cool about Imago. I was able to bounce that Tyrant out back into the deck. He's able to bring it back though, another Tyrant. That's the whole point of this deck. And I don't know why he didn't do that on the Tyrant, but whatever, he got his Ascend. And now I could just wait. There's no pressure for me to do anything until he breaks this Tyrant or pulls another Tyrant on the field like now. So I Ascend, and then I use Temptation real quick. But he decides he doesn't want me to do this. So I'm just going to block while I can. And he's going to try to do some major damage now, which is fine. I'm literally just trying to save up here. And this is the power of that deck. See how he just keeps going? It's not fun, but on drop I got lucky and I hit his Apple Tyrant to do the damage for the win. So against Denjin, I've only seen this deck a couple times. It's more of a unit-based Denjin now. But yeah, here we go. Again, I got a good opening hand. I have some growth, and I have some growth support, especially for the 5 MP. So again, just wait it out. Wait it out. And I waited long enough, I felt. And then I'm just going to need to keep up with this Ken, and I don't, because you can see this is the new Denjin Burn. It's a human-based Denjin that burns quickly. I decided I want to get this unit out. I want to start using stuff, but he's not going to let me. I don't know why he burned his agent's memory that early. But he's going to Denjin. So now we're just going to sit. I can't really do anything. And there's no point to rush a unit out on the field. So I'm just waiting for Masamune to build up, and I can get some support out there with him, so it'd be at 10. He starts to chip me some damage, which is going to happen, especially when you're playing Denjin. They do direct damage to the hero. I dropped Masamune, and then I dropped Dante. I was hoping to get a different unit, but I didn't. I was hoping to get a 3 MP. And I drop Imago. He bounces Rashid. I wanted to keep my Dante on the board, but that ended up backfiring. He ended up taking out Masamune with all those Codys. So now again, I don't need to do anything right now. We're just going to exchange. Then I use Maheda or Meta, and I don't have a unit out there to. There was nothing to bounce, but I needed to drop a unit. I want to save this Lilith just to try to burn him out of damage cards and stuff, so she can at least stay alive and get me some health back and chip at his units whatever he drops. Uses Denjin for a 3rd time, and now he's gonna. This is why I was keeping Lilith off the board. I didn't want to lose her, but I block and then I hit, and I'm gonna let her take another hit because now I'm just saving up for him to drop a unit. So if he drops a unit here, I'm just gonna drop a unit and get Lilith's damage out of it. So that's why I'm not dropping another unit anything. I'm not giving him the opportunity. I could lose Lilith on a drop, true, but there's nothing. He's not doing anything for me to drop a unit on the board, so I just wait it out. Here's against. You'll see a Tenkoha deck. A lot of purple decks are going towards Tenkoha, fighting against inner demons and stuff. Again, I got a great opening hand. I'm able to drop a 5 MP growth and then block whatever comes in. And then if I have to drop him unascended, I could drop him unascended, but we can go with it. So he's playing a growth as well. And this is what's common. You're seeing it a lot more commonly now. And see how that Kenshin helps with the extra damage. I missed the growth timing, or the ascend timing, but you know, things happen. And he's just building up for this, for the Tigrex, or Tigrex as it's pronounced correctly. He wipes my board. Yeah, I'm probably screwed. I could be, but I decide I'm going to try to work out of it. And I drop the extra growth unit just to do some damage, and this is where temptation comes in perfect. As soon as he dropped that Tigrex, I was able to tempt him so he couldn't hit me, and I'm going to one-eye dragon, and that would have wiped his field and given me a good chance to win. And he surrendered. This deck now is going to be with the more bouncing build. As you can see, I got terrible hand opening and a terrible hand this hand, so I'm going to have to work through some stuff. And he drops a Tyrant right off the bat. I don't need to be in a lane with Tyrant. I just wanted to get something down there and ascend over the top with Palomu to start doing some damage. I'm not worried about the Tyrant with slow. Now I can't bounce this Tyrant, but that's okay. And again, he drops another one. So we're just going to go Tyrant battle here against my 3 MP growth units because I don't have any of my 5s yet. Which is okay. He gets his Tyrant on board. I'm like, okay, I got to survive a little bit if I could. So I'm trying to cycle through to get my 5 MP growths. This is literally a Tyrant fest. And I know I'm going to have to take some damage here. And I'm able to get my 5 MP growth down. I'm able to block a lane, and I'm able to temptation. So we're going. He gets a 3rd Tyrant on the board, so we're 3 Super Tyrants running through. But I could block the lane soon as the Palomu went down. And I could just start chipping at that and just holding. Cruel Game comes out. This thing you're going to have to face with black. You're going to have to face at minimum 2 or 3 field wipes. And I'm not set up in a good spot here. So you just kind of have to wait it out. He could still Ouroboros into a Tyrant. So I'm just trying to drop here and get some cards that can help me. I'm not getting much of anything. So I ascend just to pretty much get a big body on the board to block. And now I can start bouncing units because I'm going to be hitting that 5 growth level when I drop Dhalsim and then Imago. And that's literally what I was waiting for. Drop Dhalsim, get that 5th growth on Imago. Here's the 2nd field wipe. But I have Masamune and I have Imago, so I could at least get another bounce out if I needed to. And I could also get Masamune up to the right growth level, and I can hit with, as you can see, I get a tweet during that time. He pulls back a Tyrant, and then he pulls a Orochi. Now that's a whole different card in general. But I temptation so he can't use Orochi's effect, and I can start chipping at Orochi. And I get Masamune up, and I'm going to use my instant attack crush on him. And I'm going to negate that apple. That apple would have made me lose the game. But with that, I'm able to chip and get those Tyrants out immediately. And now I just have to deal with Orochi doing his damage of his HP. He then uses Virus on me, and it gives me another Imago, or another Masamune, I should say. Which is fine, because then I drop Lilith to get that, pretty much that instant max level for Masamune. He gains some health back with Sharu, and I'm just sitting here now. There's really nothing I can do except just sit and wait. He pulls a Tyrant. And of course, I could level up twice to remove the Tyrant. And now I just gotta kind of just play it until I can get a hit. And he's got some more health back, and he's just going. And I'm just trying to survive at this point. Because I'm out of cards. And he's not. And then he realizes he's probably not going to win this one because of the shield down on the bottom. But that's the deck. It's very fun, very entertaining. It gets it done. Again, and I've probably said 75% about win percentage, but that's probably because I'm not piloting it correctly at times and I'm forcing things. But it's fun. So let's take a look at some hands. Alright guys, let's take a look at the hand for the Akuma game. It's a very good opening hand. I have a 5 MP growth in hand to start, and I have a support unit for that growth, and then I have, or 2 support units for that growth, I should say, and then I have another growth in Dulcim, so I can play it the way I want to depending on what he drops. So this is a very good opening hand. I didn't need to mulligan, so this is a good start. Against the Ryu, same thing. I have a 5 MP growth. Excuse me. I have a 3 MP support, and then I have 2 other 3 MP growth cards. You can play around with it. If you need to drop the Dulcims first so you can get the growth for burn damage, you can. You could just work around with what you need to with this kind of hand, and I have a way to level up as well if I get stuck with the Uncanny Chill. In the 0 game, again, this is a decent starting opening hand. I would love to have another 3 MP in there, but I have 2 growths, and I have an Ascend, and I have a support card that's a shield pretty much. So it's a good hand to start with. I also have a negate in there if I can get those 5 growths off quickly. Against the Wesker, this was the first hand we got. There's no way I would play this hand unless I had to on a mulligan. I have no growth unit. I have an Ascend unit, yes, but again, it's not going to be helpful this early in the game. I have a Mago who's not going to help me at all until I can get the 5 growths. He could just be a lane block at that point. And I have a support card for my 5 MP growths that's not going to help me. So I mulligan. And I pretty much get almost the same hand, but I can make it worth it with that Palomu. So I could drop a unit quickly. So you have to decide which unit in this hand is the easiest to get rid of immediately. And that's the shield giving unit. The indestructible or the no damage unit, you need them. Amaga is really good. Palomu you don't want to drop without being ascended. So it's a quick 6 MP drop, get some pressure early, and then just hopefully you can pull some 5 MP out of that. But yeah, so those are the hands. I didn't include the Nero hand because it's an earlier build of the deck that I don't use anymore. But again, these are types of things to look for when you're playing with the hands. So there's that. So that's the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be coming at you next week with a Nero growth deck, a new True Power deck. I'm going to be on vacation, so I'm going to try to record it early and still have it timed to drop on Saturday morning. If not, it'll be Sunday morning, but there's that. So take care, guys. I hope you have a good one.